Ryan Woods, also known as Lady Maga, is back to break down some of the trending topics. We were going to go to this story first, so I'm just going to tease ahead, Ryan. An overweight bloke just won a Miss America beauty pageant. So this should be a fun one to talk about. I, however, want to start with Paul Pelosi, because if you are someone who has been following the Paul Pelosi attack story, and you went to the Today Show's site, you may see that right now they have taken a video away. It says it's expired. And then here, if you read closely to the editor's note, which is very small, let me see if I can make it bigger for everybody. It says this piece has been removed from publication because it did not meet NBC News's reporting standards. Now, according to the Daily Beast, Miguel Almaguer, if I'm saying his last name correctly, he's a longtime reporter. If you've watched NBC for any number of years, you've seen this guy every night probably, and every, even the mornings on the Today Show. He's with Lester Holt. He's all over the place. He's a very well-known reporter. They have allegedly, according to the Daily Beast, suspended him because of that story that he did, essentially because what they're saying is that the way he, according to his source, reported it made it sound like there was something else going on besides just a random attack of a guy who he didn't know, Paul Pelosi didn't know, coming in with a hammer to beat the crap out of him and kidnap Nancy Pelosi. What I guess the report originally said was that he answered the door when police were there and backed away from police towards David DePape, which then the Daily Beast says fueled, quote, right here, right-wing conspiracy theories about the brutal assault on Paul Pelosi. So they're saying that that's what it did, and it embarrassed the network, and so they suspended him and removed it. Ryan, before I hand this over to you, I'm just going to say, I think it's weird when reporters get suspended at the network level for controversial stories, because I'm well aware of the editorial process, and I know that at least one manager signed off on this story. So it's always weird when it's like, oh, we were suspending him and removing the story because it just caught us off guard. We just didn't realize, because you guys signed off on it. And it's more than likely not just one, but maybe even a couple people, a producer, a manager, maybe even a couple managers, an anchor, probably the anchor read it. It would be likely that one of the Today Show anchors read the story and knew what was going on. So there's actually a lot of eyeballs usually on this stuff. So the reporter takes the hit, and I don't know. The Daily Beast got it right. I'm just gonna at this point say that they're reporting that, but I will say he hasn't tweeted since the 3rd, and maybe he's on vacation, but I haven't seen him contradict the stories. You would think that if he was just on vacation and people were saying he got suspended, he would say that's not true. I'm not suspended. So what do you think about this? Let's talk about this first before we get to the other hot topics.
All right. Well, first of all, Allison, it's an honor to be here today. Always wonderful to see your beautiful face, and your lip gloss is on point.
Thank you.
Looking good. And just for anybody who may not know who I am a patriot, red-blooded, hardcore American, and I love to dress up. But my artistry has been a lot less fun and a lot more of a political tool to stand up to the radical left. So speaking of the radical left, Allison, since we're talking about this retracted story from Miguel, and since it was about hammers, I really think we should ban assault hammers right now. Call your legislators.
Somebody asked me if it was a guest I had, that they supported common sense hammer reform.
Yes, common sense hammer reform. Let's get some red flag hammer laws out there. Because clearly it was the hammer who hurt this Pelosi man, not the man with the hammer, just like guns. So anyway, anybody watching right now, please, 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 if you care about children, if you care about democracy, we need to ban assault hammers right now. So
I should update people too that actually just before we went live, David DePape, he pleaded not guilty. And he's being charged with a lot of federal crimes. So it should be interesting to see what comes out of this particular case, because if you read the indictment, he allegedly told cops like his whole plan but yet he's just pleaded not guilty. So it's just a very weird story. Like, why would you tell him exactly what, you play to do all this and now you're pleading not guilty? I don't know. There's some just doesn't add up here. But again, that's why Miguel Almaguer got suspended. So.
Right. Well, Miguel is a left-wing journalist working for a left-wing outlet. And one of my favorite things ever to watch is the left eating their own. When they cancel someone like him and he's in big trouble, he obviously has not tweeted since November 3rd. So he's facing potential consequences for telling the truth. The fish that smells in the kitchen right now, to me, smells a lot like the fish that was cooking during the Epstein story. We've all seen the viral video of the television broadcast journalist saying that she had everything on Weinstein or Epstein or the celebrities, and she wasn't able to share the truth. So any story that could potentially impact people on the left in a negative way is going to be pushed to the bottom. It's going to be erased. And, all of us questioning the whole underwear hammer fun time story, we're being called conspiracy theorists. And what we know about conspiracy theories is they are conspiracy theories until about 6 months to a year later when they are proven true. So I'm just watching this story, but because it involves the Pelosi's, if there is even a smidgen of information that makes them look bad or hurts the Democrats or hurts their reputation, of course it's going to disappear. The only story that would really fit their narrative would be a white guy like me wearing a Trump hat. Then it would be international news, but it's kind of disappearing already.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have tried to link him to right-wing extremism for conspiracy theories about COVID and the ruling elite trying to take over the world, like really crazy stuff, that only weirdos talk about, like my whole channel is about, so I interview all kinds of people, people running for governor, people, are constitutional attorneys, scientists, doctors, you name it, all the censored, right? And what's funny is whenever I read these articles about people who are tagged as conspiracy theorists, let me pull this up. It's funny because I'll just, originally when they were saying he was tied to conspiracy theories, I wanted to know what they were because, it's like, well, okay, for you that might be a conspiracy theory, but is that really a conspiracy theory?
Keep in mind, my favorite part of this story is that he is an illegal immigrant.
Right. That was one. Yeah, that's one thing that was in one of the reports that Miguel did that has survived his absence. That's still up there with Lester Holt. So like they had him on the story for a while. This is why I think this is interesting. They'd had him covering the story, and a reporter is supposed to get a little deeper on stuff if you're covering it on a regular basis. Like you're supposed to work your sources and figure out other information that you may not be getting from the official authorities. I don't know who would have told him that Paul Pelosi backed away from the door and it was different than what we were hearing. It had to have either been an eyewitness, the police who were actually there, or somebody involved in the investigation, I would assume. Or maybe he was hearing from DePape's friends. I have no idea, but what I just think is weird is that like you this guy's on this story, you're posting his videos, he's going on national television every day, you're trusting him to be reporting the facts, and then you get backlash over one of his reports, you freak out, you remove the story, and you boot the guy from his job for a certain amount of time. Why? Because you think he really got it wrong, or because you got pressure from social media, from politicians? I mean, who knows? We know these government officials call the media and call the social media companies and pressure them to remove stuff. So I don't know, maybe they got a call from Pelosi's office. I don't know. It's just interesting when a reporter is trusted to do their job like day in and day out, and they'd had him on this story for a long time. And then, they thought it was fine to run. This is, again, to go back to what I was saying earlier, networks don't just like throw you on television with no vetting. You have a manager. And like I said, not just the producer reads it, the manager reads it, the anchors likely knew what the story was going to say. I mean, all these people thought it was okay. Then, the conspiracy theory concern comes out, and now all of a sudden it doesn't meet NBC standards. It just stinks.
Well, obviously Miguel is a very seasoned, experienced journalist, and I highly doubt that he would have published an article or a story without having the sources to back the information. So it's just incredibly suspicious that as soon as the story turned away from the narrative that, a right-wing white extremist attacked Pelosi's husband, it's just funny how that would be removed. And it says that his suspected attacker has hazy political ties and a rabbit hole of conspiracy theories about COVID-19.
Don't say it all. Don't say it all. Don't say it all. Don't say election. Don't say that word.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he had radical theories about the big cold, about the global, ELITE.
You can say that.
The global elite, and of course, schmection schmod. Yeah. So I probably would agree with the guy. I don't agree with attacking anyone with a hammer, but it sounds like his ideas weren't that crazy. But he wasn't officially on the right. He wasn't, a representative of the Republicans or anything. And anytime they can, they're going to try to paint any sort of attacker as a conspiracy theorist and a right-wing nut job, unless you're in Waukesha, however you say it, and you mow down an entire crowd of people during a Christmas parade, then, we'll just erase the story completely. But if any crime is committed by a white person, then of course we're going to perpetuate the narrative. But this story has disappeared rather quickly. And so I'm excited, and hopefully justice will be served. I have very little faith in our justice system these days, especially after what we've seen with Carrie Lake and other situations across the country. I won't say the words, but we'll see what happens with this. But again, we just have to ban assault hammers immediately for the children. Call David Hogg.
This article quotes the San Francisco Chronicle reporting that he was once a member of the Green Party, which promotes environmentalism, social justice, and grassroots democracy, they say. So, yeah, I mean, that kind of came out after that, but who cares? I mean, but see, I guess this is the reason why I bring it up. Like, why, the mainstream news, though they purport to be like objective and fact-based, and I know this from having worked in TV news, where speculation is allowed if it's like their safe space speculation. But then when those of us on the internet are like, well, could it be this or could it be that? That's a conspiracy theory, So it's just interesting too, that on top of that, if there's, if they were speculating about right-wing extremism because they were contextualizing the story, a lot of the CNNs and CBS and NBCs that were reporting the story originally were contextualizing it by saying, this comes at a time with attack on lawmakers and right-wing domestic extremism. And so they would just, even though we didn't know that that's what that guy was a part of, they would just contextualize it as like, this is just happening at the same time. So maybe they're related. Okay, so why remove, let's just say Miguel, got it wrong. Maybe he got it right, but let's just say he got it wrong. That NBC figures out, oh, okay, this doesn't meet our standards and whatever. Well, I just think it's interesting that this kind of stuff happens on a regular basis. So when you have to pay attention to when they take drastic action, like when they remove stories, they don't just do little editor's notes and then they suspend the reporter. I think it's worth paying attention to when they take that kind of action. That should signal to us something about this story is not like the rest of them, because it's not like this just never happens. This kind of stuff happens all the time. And so when they decide they're going to wipe it from the internet and they're also going to punish the reporter, who are they signaling to and what are they trying to get across? I just, what's so scary about this story? I guess that's my question.
Well, you have a background in journalism. My degree is also in radio, print, and TV journalism. And we know as journalists that you have a responsibility to report the news. So hopefully Miguel was just doing his job. But, the occult, the elite, the puppeteers. I hate to use the word, but the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, the people in power who are doing the agenda setting, who are the gatekeepers of information. Any celebrity or journalist who ends up in the public eye who goes against their narrative is always punished. We see this with celebrities, and now we see this with this journalist, Miguel. Hopefully, Miguel is going to be, a brave journalist and step away and expose what happened to him. But I believe it goes even deeper than just canceling someone or suspending them. I truly believe that at this corporate elite, leftist, New World level, if you go against them, you will literally face threats against your physical body, against your family, against your home, against your reputation. You could be blackmailed. So I think that behind the scenes, it's a lot darker and a lot more scary, almost like the mafia. When it comes to the punishing of any mainstream famous journalist or celebrity who goes against the narrative and dares to question or insult anybody on the left. So I worry for Miguel, but hopefully he's okay. But the executives behind the scenes in this industry are scary. You don't mess with them because you don't mess with George Soros. You don't mess with Zuckerberg. You don't mess with Gates. You don't mess with Pelosi. You don't mess with the Clintons. And he did by reporting information that wasn't even that controversial. But obviously it's controversial because it had the potential to make the Pelosi's look bad.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I kind of wonder if he even realized at the time what he was saying by reporting that. I don't know, because I remember the couple of times in my career where I was overtly censored by managers, and it caught me off guard because I was, even though I was starting to wake up and I had been, mostly asleep for a long time to some of this stuff, when I finally did start seeing the different angles that I had been missing, and I pitched them. I was speaking them out loud in the newsroom. I was still expecting that I was going to be allowed to go down that path because I was still working with kind of this naivety, I guess, about what we were there to do. And so then when I was told I couldn't talk about that stuff, it did surprise me. So I kind of wonder what he's thinking now. Like, because my guess is if you wanted to keep your job and you were pressured not to run the story, I don't think this story would have made air. So I don't think there was like this. My guess is there wasn't an internal struggle over this. Like, I don't know for sure, but I would say that because it made air, there were a lot of people who probably thought it was okay and like didn't realize, but what does that say about the news business that if you just complain enough, they'll say, oh, we didn't mean it. That's that. So it's basically like, it's objective until we're pressured otherwise. And then we just remove it. It's just, to me, there's just not a whole lot of confidence inspired, I guess, in the decision to suspend him and to remove the story. I don't know.
Of course not. And this is only, just imagine how many sincere reporters go out there and do a real story. How many stories are scratched before they even make it onto the internet? This is just one example that they sort of let slip through the cracks. And now that the CDC and all of the other organizations are retracting basically everything they said about the needle, about the masks, about everything else, we see that the mainstream media, they don't care if they get it wrong as long as it fits the current fear-mongering narrative. And this narrative, obviously, is that right-wing Republican, Trump-supporting people are dangerous, and that's the only angle that they're going to allow to be presented. And if there is something suspicious, or they do smell a rat with this whole Hammer underwear story, it will just be brushed under the rug and it will disappear as quickly as the Waukesha terrorist attack, which was one of the greatest terrorist attacks in American history. But of course, it was over in 24 hours because it doesn't fit their narrative. So it's all about agenda setting. It's all about pushing their narrative. And we shouldn't be surprised. NBC News, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, they are farcical dish rag publications. And we can't trust one thing we see on their websites.
Okay, I want to let everybody know that we are live on Rumble as well as ROKFIN and YouTube, and we're probably going to be able to do the whole stream on YouTube, but just in case you're wondering, we are live on the other platforms, so go over there and watch instead. T. Villars, Lady Maga is my favorite guest. Thank you for the generous Rumble rant. I should just tell everybody on YouTube, you know, Rumble rants are the same as the super chats, but they're better because they're on Rumble and you're more likely to get income over there because you're not going to get suspended. So consider making the change over to Rumble. We appreciate it. I'm going to ask you, Ryan, in a second about this. So Brian Wen, that's this person right here in the middle, Miss Greater Deary, which is I think a town in New Hampshire. And so I think the next step in this Miss America pageant circuit is Miss New Hampshire. And then if you win that, you go to Miss America, if I understand correctly. So Brian Wen says on Instagram, I'm the first trans winner of a Miss America beauty pageant. And you can see the girls around with their, you know, what are those called?
Sashes.
Sashes. Thank you. And a lot of them are teen. I mean, these are teens. I even think Brian is like 17. So these are teens, and well, you see Brian there in the center. Brian won. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But first, don't forget, if you want to support my work, you can go to AllisonWinePromo.com, where, you know what, you're thinking, I need a drink for all the stuff that I get to hear on Allison's channel. And I will just say, I just had the Rogue Malbec last night, which is the one here from 6,000 feet, sustainable farm, hand harvested. It's one of the best wines I have ever had. So I'm not just saying that because they're a sponsor. It is a very, very good wine. The one in the middle is from almost 9,000 feet. These are all extreme altitude. They're considered extreme altitude Malbecs. The reason people ask me, like, why does that matter? Because the grapes work harder at those altitudes, like the grape skins, to protect the grape and to survive, essentially. And so it tastes different. It's a very robust flavor. It's great if you like very, I don't know, robust wines, and you can't get them at the grocery store either. This was like never before imported wine. So go get that. You can have it for Thanksgiving. It's a great way to say, check out Allison's channel. You can say to grandma, like I said yesterday, if she's shoving the turkey drumstick down your throat and you want to distract her because you're arguing over vaccines or Trump in 2024 or whatever, it's a great centerpiece. So go to AllisonWinePromo.com, get 50% off the wine and 50% off shipping. Great way to support my work. You can also go to TwinEngineCoffee.com/Allison and get some USDA certified organic coffee roast, light roast, dark roast, and in between. There's also Katura tea, which is one of my favorite drinks. I do it iced, but you can also do hot tea. It's like a black tea. I make kombucha out of it. I'm also really into espresso these days because my parents got me an Italian-made stainless steel espresso maker for Christmas. So they do have an espresso roast. Let's look for it right here. So very good if you're into espresso. But like I said, all the coffee is really good and it's organic. It's a small company in Nicaragua. The whole operation's down there where they grow, harvest, roast the beans. Okay, so now that we got through that, let's go to the story. So this was kind of a savage article, Ryan. I'll just say that.
I'm just so excited to talk about this. Although before we talk about this, Allison, let's be fair. The name of the pageant was Miss Dairy, right? Like celebrating the dairy industry.
No, it's Deary. It's like the town.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because if it was dairy, then this guy obviously deserved to win because clearly he has consumed the most dairy of all the contestants.
Oh, man. Well, so it's okay. I do think it is pronounced Dairy, but I think it's a town in New Hampshire. That's how I understand it. Yeah, because it's like you win. Let me fact check that while you're talking. Go ahead.
Well, they go, they have the smaller pageants and then the bigger pageants. And, the pageants get bigger and bigger as they go along. And I'm guessing this Brian person's also going to get bigger and bigger as he goes along. So looking forward to it. I don't know if you can pull it up, but I actually did make a video about this brave and beautiful, gorgeous woman with a little humor in there. And we're all so depressed and discouraged right now in America as conservatives. So I made this video, I hope it makes people laugh. So if you can pull that up, It basically demonstrates everything I think about this dairy queen here.
Okay, here we go.
It's Lady Maga USA, and the time has come to react. Let me put on my lip gloss. This brave and beautiful biological MAN won a competition against biological female beauty queens. I'm a bit of a fairy, and I love fairy tales. So I'm going to present my reaction with the fairy tale, The Emperor's New Clothes.
Oh, oh, look at the king. Oh, oh, he has no clothes. Shh, shh, don't say a word. He is wearing nothing.
I can't see the clothes.
But he doesn't want to look foolish. The emperor says,
Wow! These clothes are really nice.
he puts on the invisible clothes. People clap for him. Huh? He is naked. They are shocked. But no one says anything.
Y'all know I love dress up and theater, but I am a man, and I would never dream of erasing biological women. They deserve their own pageants, locker rooms, bathrooms, and identity. Sorry, not sorry. Biological men like me who love dress up are not women. Duh.
Okay, well, you get your point across. I gotta say, I'm gonna go back to the, I feel bad for this kid because, okay, like I don't like making like the weight jokes and stuff. I mean, this guy's a 17-year-old, right? And somehow has become like how did this happen? I guess you know what I mean. That's the way, sort of the way I look at it. Is I feel bad that a 17-year-old kid is in the situation where, I'll show you a video that a former, I think, Miss Great Britain made of it, is talking about like would a woman who's overweight get to win a beauty pageant? Like, would I don't know if you're
Allison, now
yeah.
I oh my gosh, I'm going to hell. Now I feel so guilty for all my weight jokes. You make a good point.
Well, no, I mean, I just,
No, you
at
made
the
a
end of
great
the day,
point. I agree. Being snarky and mean is not always the best path, but it's a guilty pleasure.
Well, I think, in this, like I said, this article is pretty savage about it too. I do think it's fair to make the point that, women, like one of the criticisms of beauty pageants, I guess, is that, like women are, whatever, what would the word be, like over sexualized or in young women.
Objectified. The
Objectified, right.
objectification of
Yeah,
women.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, but so you kind of sit back and wonder, like, if Brian wasn't Brian, would Brian have won? I don't know. In today's world, like, big is beautiful. So I don't know, like, I don't know what beauty pageants would do, but I feel kind of bad that we're talking about teenagers here. This has become like a story of international significance now, because it's gone around, made the rounds, and you have some people saying, oh, this is great for for trans rights or whatever, and then you have women saying, no, this is well, actually, this is a quote that somebody from my locals community wanted you to respond about. Let me just get the exact one. Oh yeah. The idea that womanhood is a costume that can be stepped into by men is the very essence of dick swinging entitlement.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, they went there in that article, didn't they? I would just like to reiterate that, and thank you to the follower who brought that up. I love theater. I love makeup. I love glitter. I love sparkles. I love dresses. I love Barbies. I mean, I love everything that would immediately be labeled for girls or for women. That does not have anything whatsoever to do with my biological reality as a 6'2" man with male genitalia and male bone structure and male chromosomes. So that's one of the main reasons I do what I do, because I like to visually, just crush the leftist narrative by showing them that they are the ones who are perpetuating gender stereotypes, something they've always claimed to fight. In the past, the whole LGBTQ movement was about consenting adult gays and lesbians. And everybody was on board, and the battle's over. No one cares if your hairstylist is gay or your neighbors are lesbians. Nobody. Drive your Subaru Outback, wear your lip gloss. Nobody cares. So the whole new movement is actually erasing gay and lesbian people from the entire movement. And in the past, they would say, don't reinforce the binary and the gender stereotypes. A girl who likes pink, girls should not be forced to wear a dress. Boys should not be forced to play sports. But now within their narrative, they make it so clear that if you're a boy who likes pink, you're in the wrong body and you're a girl. And if you're a girl who doesn't like makeup, you're in the wrong body and you're actually a boy. So clothing and interests have nothing to do with biological realities. And for me, when I dress up, I'm dressing up as a theatrical endeavor to make people smile, to have fun, to be silly, to express my artistry and my makeup skills and fashion. I'm not there to erase biological women. And the modern LGBTQIA++ MAP narrative, they have one mission, and that is to erase biological women. So I don't understand why the feminists are not standing up. And I also, to tell you the truth, I'm a little bit of a bitter queen sometimes, because I don't understand why someone like me is making videos about this pageant that was usurped by a biological man, but none of those girls in that picture and none of their families are publicly speaking out. That's why I use the Emperor's New Clothes example, because they are just silent. They're too afraid to state the obvious. And when it comes to overweight beauty pageant participants, I don't think we should ever judge anyone according to their looks. That being said, we should judge them according to their behaviors and their accomplishments. And quite frankly, the women who enter a beauty pageant work very hard, nutritionally, exercise-wise, to look a certain way and to achieve that aesthetic so that they can compete. And so the compliment to be given to them isn't, oh, you're so beautiful and you're so sexy. It's, wow, you have worked really, really hard. Eating right, eating clean, exercising, toning your body to enter that pageant. So it's not only a spit in the face to all of those girls who worked so hard on their talent, their speeches, their bodies, their makeup, their hair. And then all of a sudden, this French fry guzzling person, a man, steps in and wins the prize. So my question is, where are the parents? Where are the girls? The girls are obviously taking pictures with him saying, oh, isn't this great? We all know that deep in their hearts, they know this was not fair. They know that their chance of winning that crown and advancing to the next pageant was stolen by a biological man with a penis. And that is not fair. I don't know if he has one or not, but as far as I know, he is not fully transitioned. And so I just feel very angry on behalf of biological women. And I'm asking the women of America to speak up, because I find it very strange that someone like me is out here talking about this issue all the time. And yet every girl in that pageant is not. I find that very disturbing.
Okay, so this is Leilani Dowding. When I won Miss GB, which is Great Britain in 98, an entire world of opportunity opened for me. That will be taken away from these girls. The winner of that competition got a scholarship and prize money, and it went to an overweight man caked in makeup. So let's listen to what she says. Let me know if you can't hear it, okay, Ryan?
Okay.
It opens up a whole world of opportunity for me, not just the prize money, the endorsements and TV appearances, but when I wanted to move to America, it was really instrumental in helping me get my visa. Now, a biological male, an overweight one at that, has just won Miss Greater Derry. in New Hampshire. Brian Wen, not even a female name, caked in makeup, nothing like the pretty natural girls that entered the competition, has not only taken first place, they've taken away the chance for a female to have a scholarship and use that prize money for something towards her future. Now, these girls, I saw them stand around clapping and smiling, and I don't know if they felt like they would be singled out or whether they really are a woke bunch. But for goodness sake, for the sake of females going forward, we cannot allow this. So they don't even realize the opportunity that has been stolen from them by a biological male, and it's out of control.
So kind of what you were saying. I mean, it's just like, I guess the reason that I thought this was an interesting topic to cover is because I don't know where this goes with feminists and women who are discussing this particular issue, because, it's really dividing, and it's dividing women over what it means to be a woman and women's activities and who should be allowed to do that and who shouldn't be. And, a year or two ago, this was a topic that a lot of women weren't speaking out about because you face such brutal social repercussions for saying, hey, wait a second, we want to have our own space where we're not having to compete with men. This was like part of what we wanted as feminists or whatever else they want to call themselves. Because it's not just feminists who think this way, right? So I don't want to just make it sound like it's just feminists. There are a lot of women who wouldn't consider themselves a feminist at all, but still think there's something wrong with this. But it's just it's dividing women, over this particular topic. And only recently, I think, have you been able to speak like she did in this without being, remember J.K. Rowling? She was just crucified online for saying this kind of stuff. So I think it's less, I don't know. It's becoming something where you can speak about it with less social repercussions, but you still do. I mean, you're still looked as transphobic or whatever if you question this kind of stuff. And I do think it's kind of interesting. Like, she brings up the fact that Brian still goes by Brian, so
Absolutely. The question here is not about transgenderism. It's not about being transphobic or homophobic or any of that. It comes down to the fundamental question of fairness. What is fair? And how long can we erase and ignore biological realities at the expense of young women? Because Brian could compete in a male pageant or men's sports if he felt like it one day. Those girls cannot. It's funny how men's spaces are not being invaded by women. The issue is primarily in women's spaces. And I think it goes, it's a reflection of the greater agenda to destroy the traditional family and destroy motherhood and femininity and erase the gender, the differences between gender. So I just feel bad for those girls, but at the same time, I don't feel bad for them. I know why they don't speak out. You said things are a little better. I would have to disagree. Every time I do a video about, Dylan Mulvaney or this person or Rachel Levin, I have to say person, this person, because if you misgender someone on mainstream social media, maybe not Twitter anymore, but if you misgender someone, you are at risk of being kicked off. And I say misgender in quotation marks, of course, because gender exists. Clothing, makeup, hair, behavior, and interests do not change biological realities.
I know you can't say a whole lot about your lawsuit. I'll just tell people that you were fired from Delta after social media posts that would typecast
Okay,
you as a
right there, Allison, we've already gone, we can't.
Too far?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not even allowed to say it?
Let's just say I lost my 8-year career in the airline industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, since I promised people on Locals I was going to bring this up just to talk about what you could
say. Just say airline industry.
Airline industry.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was a case of a Southwest flight attendant who sued because she was posting about she was posting anti-abortion stuff on Facebook and sending messages to the union president, I believe, saying that, you know, she was concerned about union dues, basically funding people going to these let's see here. Let me read specifically what they're talking about here.
This
Carter
flight attendant, she was pro-life. She was punished for being pro-life.
That's what she alleged. Yeah. She was fired in March 2017 after complaining to the union president about flight attendants going to a march in Washington, D.C., where more than 500,000 people protested President Donald Trump's positions on abortion and other issues. Carter, who had clashed with the union for years over other issues, believed dues were paying for an anti-abortion protest. Carter sent a series of Facebook messages, some containing videos of purported aborted fetuses, to Audrey Stone, who was president of the union at the time. She called Stone despicable and said she would be voted out of office. According to court documents, the airline said it fired Carter because posts on her Facebook page in which she could be identified as a Southwest employee were highly offensive and that her private messages to Stone were harassing. The airline said she violated company policies on bullying and use of social media, but she just won this case, $5.1 million, and kind of it's a sort of a speech issue, I guess. And then, you know, recently the Epoch Times did an article about saying that Southwest and flight attendants, I guess, still feel like they can't post stuff on social media. I just don't know if you have any thoughts on, you know, posting, because what I didn't understand was that I guess like Southwest and other airlines have policies that like you represent them even in your off time, which is interesting because that was something that we dealt with in TV news that I didn't realize other industries had. I mean, I know that a private company can kind of make its decisions about this stuff in a way that the government can't, though my government employer did make that decision, fired me over my First Amendment right to speak, but we won't get into that right now. But anyway, allegedly, you know, private corporations can do that kind of thing and they can get away with it. But in this case, I thought it was interesting because it's not just a clear cut posting, you know, alleged that she was harassing or whatnot. You know, not just like doing it on her own page, but sending messages, you know, whatever she's being awarded this Southwest, I guess, is appealing. But, you know, I just didn't realize that flight attendants were these policies that, you know, in your off time, you're representing the company. Because in TV, I get it because we're like front facing. I mean, we're public figures, you know, and we've signed up for that. We sign contracts that say that we're public figures. We represent their brand because we're on TV and stuff. But it seems like a heavy burden for a flight attendant to have to meet that bar.
Absolutely. In corporate America, there, as we see with the Biden administration and we see with the left, they can't use the laws directly to oppress people, suppress their views, you know, crush their free speech rights. They use corporations and corporate policies to do that. So in my opinion, the simple solution is every company out there can say, unless your job actually is, let's say you are a news anchor and your face is the face of the news and you're not an average citizen. Flight attendants are not supposed to be filmed on a flight. They're not supposed to be photographed. They are, in a sense, anonymous. And so the simple solution to respect the constitutional rights of every employee would simply be you can say anything you want in your own personal time, as long as you don't speak on behalf of your employer and you don't identify the employer in your social media. So I would have to say if a Southwest flight attendant, for example, posted all about Trump or posted images that were controversial and in their bio on their social media, the word Southwest Airlines was on there, I could see how Southwest Airlines could be concerned about that. But as long as their company's name is not there and a person is simply standing up for what they believe in, that is eliminating their First Amendment right to free speech. So it's a very nebulous and slippery slope, but hopefully, you know, this flight attendant wins. It sounds like she sent some images that were questionable, that were potentially very offensive, but the definition of bullying is, I mean, anything is bullying now. And so it sounds to me like that could have just been handled in HR. They could have discussed the issue with both flight attendants. They could have asked her to please no longer send violent or upsetting images to your coworkers, put it on a record, and move on. Instead, she wasn't punished so much for sending those messages. She was punished for being pro-life because obviously Southwest Airlines and other corporations are all about the leftist agenda. You know, some airlines give their employees Black Lives Matter pins. So if an employee speaks out against Black Lives Matter, you know, they say that they're speaking out against the employer. So it's a very obvious line. If let's say I'm a boss and I have employees and I'm obviously, you know, pro-life, pro-gun, conservative. If I have an employee and they are a social justice warrior, completely on the left, they love Pelosi, they love Hillary, they love abortion, whatever, as long as they're not using my company's name in their social media, it should not be my job to shut them down. The minute they use my name or my company's name in their posts, then we can have an issue. So I hope this flight attendant wins, because people across America are losing their jobs, including myself, for doing nothing illegal and doing nothing more than exercising their First Amendment right to speak out and have an opinion. Because we all know that the flight attendants at Southwest Airlines on the left, they got to post Black Lives Matter squares. They got to say whatever they want all day long about conservatives, Trump supporters, and white people. And I guarantee they were not punished because they fit the corporate narrative that Southwest wants.
I'm going to take a couple questions from locals before we wrap this up. If you're watching this somewhere else, don't forget to join my editorial board over on Locals, alicetomorrow.locals.com. You can put questions ahead of time for interviews like with Ryan. Empress9 asks, how is drag, which you do, Ryan, not considered just as offensive as blackface or fake Chinese accents? I've been offended for decades for what appears to be blatant mockery of what is considered feminine. I'm not critical of anyone's sexual proclivities except for child rapists, but I consider this different and not always even sexual. What do you think?
Oh, that's a great question. I like that she ended by saying that it's not sexual. I think for a lot of drag queens out there, it does end up, they choose to present themselves in such a provocative sexual way because they're very unattractive men. And so they use it as a way of getting sexual, maybe romantic attention when they're dressed up. But for me, it is anything but sexual. It is quite I do not feel sexy when I'm dressed up as Lady Maga. I simply feel fabulous and theatrical. And when it comes to the idea of blackface for women, I think that if you believe in freedom, that's a little unfair to say that certain articles of clothing represent women. Because when I'm dressed up, Allison, have you ever had hair this big on top of your head?
No, but I think that's what she's saying, is that it's a mockery of what it means to be a woman.
Well, that's my question. Do you consider hair this big and eyelashes this long and over the top huge gowns and 4 necklaces and feather boas to represent women? I don't think.
Oh, man, I mean, I don't care what you do, but I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I don't get offended by pretty much anything. But it's definitely not a representation. But I'll say this.
Yeah.
One thing I've always wondered, I ever since I was in seminary and I went to Boston University, this very like woke theological seminary, which was the first time I was introduced to a lot of this stuff. And you know, we read like transgender theology, queer theology is at the time like what it was called. I mean, it encapsulates more than just transgender stuff, but one thing I didn't really quite understand about it was, even back then I thought it was odd. It felt to me like while there was this push to deconstruct what a woman has to be, like it used to be in the 50s, you know, my mom, she couldn't wear pants at school. She had to wear a skirt at college at the University of Virginia. And so then, you know, you go through these years of trying to break rules so that women don't have to wear skirts. It doesn't mean that you don't have to be a woman if you wear a skirt, or you don't have to wear a skirt to be a woman, I guess I should say. That then when this, like when queer theology came in, or transgender theory, now all of a sudden to be a woman, you wear a skirt again. And I thought it was kind of odd to see how it was like almost re-cementing the stereotypes of a woman while at the same time
that's
trying
exactly
to.
what they're doing. They
Yeah,
used
I
to
mean,
say
I
we
just
want
didn't
to
make any
erase
sense to
gender
me.
stereotypes, but every single thing, like Dylan Mulvaney, the person who went and got to speak with President Biden, sitting across from him, he has videos about girlhood and womanhood. To me, dressing up in a theatrical way the way I do, while saying I am a man, is not a mockery of women. Saying I am a woman, the equivalent of a biological woman, like Dylan Mulvaney does, and like the whole trans movement does, that is a mockery of women. And to anyone who says that my theatrical dress up is blackface for women, I would have to ask them that if a woman dresses up as Batman for Halloween, is that blackface for men?
If I say it again.
If a woman dresses up as Spider-Man, a bodybuilder with a fake muscle suit, or Batman, would that be
I see what
blackface
you're
for
saying.
men?
Yeah, you
Dress
could go.
up is
No, I mean,
dress
you could
up.
go round and round. You could go round and round. Yeah, yeah. I see what you
To
mean.
me, the answer is dress up is dress up. Theater is theater.
I see.
And I'm not claiming to be a biological woman. And if I
Mhm.
were, that would be a mockery of women. But
Okay, I see what you mean.
Life is short. Dress up. Have fun.
Well, or if you were doing it, maybe if you were doing it to, like in the case of Brian Wen, compete in some way, I guess, with a biological woman, like using the dress up to in some way detract from, the women's group. Maybe that would be where someone would come in and say that's, we don't like that. But like if all you're doing is you're dressing up, I don't know. I can see your point. I see your point. Okay, the TRAs are trying to, I don't know what that stands for.
Probably the trans.
Maybe are trying to erase women. Posey Parker is going around the U.S. rallying for Let Women Speak. Come out to silence her with noise, heckler's veto, and sometimes they could get away with it violence. In Seattle, at least one woman was physically injured. Thank you, Ryan, for speaking up about something that supposedly is not happening. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. How can we help? Maybe this would be a good time for you to tell everybody where they can follow you and what they should do to support you.
Yeah. Before I do that, I just want to reiterate that what I do is my personal artistry and a way of making life imaginative and fun. My goal is not to erase women. And every day I post, I make videos, I work with legislators, I do events, I create content to stand up against the erasing of women and to stand up for biological women, and especially to prevent the drugging, mutilation, castration, and mastectomies of children. And by doing it as Lady Maga USA, dressed up, which is about 25% of my content, the rest is just me as the man that I am trying to defy the left and let people on the left know that you can be different, but you still need to love America, and you still need to support religious freedom and our Constitution. So if you agree with what I've said or you'd like to learn more, you can visit ladymagausa.com. One word, ladymagausa.com. On there, you can sign up for a donation. You can buy a t-shirt or, a mug or some merch that helps me keep going. You can follow me on Facebook, Lady Maga USA, which is that's where most of my traffic is. That's where it's the best place to follow me and see everything in one place. You can also follow me on Twitter and YouTube, Lady Maga USA. And if you want to go to Instagram, it's just LMUSA 1776, because this is my third Instagram account, because like Allison and most conservative influencers, I was kicked off for stating the truth. And so that's where you can follow me. And I always tell people, I am different. I'm weird. I'm totally not your average cookie cutter conservative, but that's what makes my voice more compelling, because I can say things that your average, everyday conservative cannot say, because I have experience in this. I'm an expert on the LGBTQ movement because I was inside of it for a very long time. I'm an expert on religious freedom because I grew up Mormon. I went on a Mormon mission. And so finding the balance for freedom for all people, including, you know, evangelicals and gay people, that's where we have to come together. So I ask people, just watch about 5 to 10 minutes of my content. Try to find some of the more serious videos. Give me 5 to 10 minutes. And I think you'll understand why I do what I do and why my voice is compelling and important. I just finished a German documentary, has over 3 million views in Germany. A Japanese one also has millions of views in Japan. And our fight for freedom is global. So I am reaching people and standing up for women, and I'm doing it in a very different, very fabulous way. So I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up.
Well, I say to people that I have you on to talk about these issues because, you know, what I cover censorship and people who are kind of ostracized socially for their views. And you do really kind of live in a no man's land because you get pushback from conservatives who don't want you, you know, in the conservative world. Liberals don't like you because you're, you know, I don't want to call, I shouldn't call them liberals. I feel
Leftist.
Yeah, when people,
commies,
Democrats,
commies.
yeah. Neoliberal Democrats, I guess they don't like you because you're MAGA, and so it's a kind of a lonely place. And
It's a very lonely place. Do you know who Richard Grenell is?
I don't think so.
Former President Trump's former intelligence director. He's a gay guy. He was here in Utah with Mike Lee. And I addressed this. There were about 20 of us who got to have a meeting with them. And I addressed it. I said, you know, it's a lonely road because I'm totally ignored by most media. Obviously, the left will never show that I exist because they're afraid of people waking up to the truth. And a lot of people on the right lump me in with LGBTQ radicals. So I asked him, I said, you know, what do I do? And he said, buddy, you're a pioneer and you're doing something nobody else has ever done in American history. So your road is going to be bumpy. It's going to be lonely. And he said, that's the price you're going to pay for being a pioneer and doing things in such a non-conventional, outlandish way. And so I've just sort of accepted that. But yeah, the word is lonely. I get discouraged quite often because I love this country. I love all people. I love my super religious friends. You know, I love Black, white, gay, straight, Asian, Hispanic, and I just want us to come together under the American flag and respect each other's freedoms. But the LGBTQ mafia does not respect the freedoms of religious people in this country, and they do not believe in free speech, and they're just pawns for the leftist communist agenda. And it just gets scarier and scarier every day.
Okay, final question from locals over here. Ryan, I've heard that suicide rates are 20 times higher in people with gender dysphoria, followed for 20 years despite transgender surgery. Why does trans surgery appear to not be the solution to gender dysphoria? What is the best public health approach to lessen suicidal ideology in children and young adults with gender dysphoria?
Oh, such a good question. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, user. Here's the reality. Allegedly transgender youth are committing suicide at horrific rates. And the research does show that the drugs and the mutilations do not reduce those suicidal tendencies. So we as conservatives, just like people on the left, we do care about young people killing themselves. Anytime a certain group of young people is suicidal and they're killing themselves, we have to pay attention and we have to try to stop it. What's being hidden from the public, what's being hidden from the narrative is, why are these young people killing themselves? Well, I'll tell you this. We all know that going through puberty and growing up is difficult. It's traumatizing even. Nobody likes going through puberty. Nobody likes being in middle school. It's such a difficult time. So if you take an already unstable, emotional, hormonal 14 or 15-year-old girl or boy, and you inject their body with mind-altering and emotion-altering drugs that change the very physical chemistry of their body, it messes with their brains. And one of the things we never get to see in mainstream media is the people who have detransitioned. That means people who regret taking these drugs or cutting off their breasts. Gays Against Groomers just made a post, and it was a story of a girl who said, "I will never get my breasts back." She said, why did I do this? I was 18 years old and I was in a phase. And now I feel jealous of biological girls who have their natural, beautiful breasts. She'll never be able to fully remove those scars, and she'll never be able to fully have her natural body back. And so she was suicidal. She is suicidal. And so these kids are killing themselves, not because of Trump, not because of Lady Maga USA, not because of Allison, not because of Christians, but because they're quite literally being drugged and manipulated. And to me, nothing could be more damaging to a little child. Let me show you a picture of me when I was a little boy. So this is me in Hawaii when I was just a little kid, and I'm wearing a lava lava and a shell necklace and a flower in my hair, and I'm living my best life, loving every minute of it. Nothing could be more abusive than for an adult to tell this little boy, you're not just different, you're in the wrong body. How traumatizing to believe that your very physical makeup and your very natural body parts, there's something wrong with them, there's something wrong with you. So right there, that's going to lead somebody to suicide. It's the equivalent of telling a black kid that you're not white, so there's something wrong with you. It really is the equivalent of that, to lie and tell these young people that. So I think the last part of that question was, how do we prevent that? How do we deal with this? And I'll tell you, every single conservative event I attend, someone brings this up because someone in their family, normally young people, are dealing with this trans issue. My thing is, just ask that young child, what are you proud of and who are you outside of your sexuality and outside of your gender identity? What else are you proud of? Are you proud that you're kind? Are you proud that you're a musician? Are you proud that you're an athlete? Are you proud that you're an artist? Are you proud that you're a good brother or sister or friend? Are you proud that you're generous? Are you proud that you're honest? Our identity should not be built around such useless things such as our gender or our sexuality. You're never going to be fully fulfilled if that is the only thing you have to be proud of. We can only be fulfilled and authentically proud if we're proud of our accomplishments and who we are, not our physical makeup or our sexuality. To me, my sexuality is no more important than the fact that I eat when I'm hungry and I put on a coat when it's cold. To me, it's just a physical reality. It's not who I am. And so to build authentic self-esteem for young people, you have to help them build their confidence from something that matters more than your physical body and your sexual feelings.
There was one other question. We talked about Saltwater Pearls wanted to know about the dick swinging entitlement, which we discussed already. But I forgot also asked, I'm not sure how much Ryan knows about the judging a beauty pageant, but is there any way the points could have been tallied to give Brian the most number of points? Do you know about anything like that?
Oh, I've competed in drag pageants before. I don't know if it was rigged or not. I don't know exactly how they tally up the score, but obviously the judges get to be subjective and choose who they think is the best. And in this case, they clearly wanted to make an international statement and say that we are woke. We're going to choose this biological overweight man instead of any of these beautiful young girls who were hoping to get a scholarship. And as that beautiful British pageant queen said, you know, this is terrible because not only did they take away their crown, they took away scholarship opportunities, which is the same thing we see when men win women's sports competitions. It's absolutely unfair. And I'm just shocked that 90% of Americans agree with me, but they're too afraid to say anything. And that's why we're losing in America right now. We're not losing because of the commies. We're not losing because of AOC. We're not losing because of the Democrats. We're losing because of conservative complacency and rhinos, but that's another story. But we're losing because nobody has the courage to speak out. Nobody wanted to put a mask on their 3-year-old. They never thought that was okay. Did they go to the school board? Did they write a letter? Did they organize a protest? Did they email? You know, the silence and the complacency among common sense Americans is lethal. and it's deadly. And until more Americans actually speak up like you and I do, we're going to continue to lose.
Ryan, is there anything else you'd like to say before you go?
Oh, just that, you know, to anybody watching who might not like what I do, just know that I love you and I love this country. And behind all of my activism is a red-blooded American who values my freedoms, who appreciates the sacrifice of all those who have gone before us. And freedom is not free. And we may not see eye to eye on everything, but we can agree we need free speech. We need a strong Second Amendment. We need fair and open and transparent elections. So we're going to agree. Ronald Reagan said, if you agree with me 80% and you disagree with me 20%, you're 80% my friend and not, 20% my enemy. You're 80% my friend. So we can work together. We have to save this country. And if we awaken common sense, gay and lesbian people across this country, which is happening in the hundreds of thousands, then that voting demographic will support our country. So again, Allison, it's such an honor to be on here with your beautiful face. I know you're so busy. You're a mom, you've got a million other things, and yet you still take the time to do this. So I applaud that. I appreciate it. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, well, thanks for taking the time. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Don't forget, go to Lady Maga. Let's just pull up your website one more time, ladymagausa.com, and follow Ryan there. And I guess we'll see you next time, Ryan. Next time there's another round of craziness to discuss.
Well, we only have to wait 24 hours, honey, anytime.
Right, exactly.
All right,
everybody. See you next time.